Good win for the Irish against Syracuse on Saturday. They're trending in a good direction now after the Stanford loss. They've moved to 5-3 and got a marquee game in front of them this weekend, Mike, with number 5 Clemson back in town. And I think we knew from the get-go that this was going to be the big weekend for Notre Dame football recruiting. I guess it's probably safe to say the who's who of Notre Dame football recruiting will be in town to watch this matchup.
Yeah, definitely tons of 2023 commits, 2024 commits, 2024 targets. And we'll see about the high school senior, recruits who aren't committed to Notre Dame, kind of if there's any surprise names or whatever, because you look at the target list, most of the guys have already taken their official visits, and it's kind of playoff time. So not expecting like a huge 2023 recruiting weekend for Notre Dame, but look, the way Notre Dame's season has gone and the amount of talent the Irish have on their commit list in the 23 cycle, a lot of other programs want to flip these kids from Notre Dame. So many of them will be on campus this weekend, namely 5-star safety Peyton Bowen, who I would say, other than the quarterback position for Notre Dame in this 23 cycle, keeping him locked in is the second most important storyline for the Irish these next couple months before National Signing Day. So definitely a big weekend with him coming on campus. And then, you'll have probably close to all of your commits in these two classes, as well as some big-time 2024 targets as well.
Nice. I saw this week a feature you were involved with from On3, I believe, where you had to say whether the commit was going to stick or flip. And that's tough. That's brutally tough to have to answer some of those questions, including Bowen. So I'm not sure I'd be a big fan of that particular segment.
Yeah, it's tough. I did go with everyone to stick with the kind of caveat of Bowen being like, guys, I don't know. It really does depend on the day, on how I'm feeling about Notre Dame's chances to keep them. Right now, I'm feeling pretty optimistic, but it's one of those things. It's just actions speak louder than words, and it's just a lot of talk right now about what he's doing. But his actions would say he's basically an uncommitted prospect with all the schools he's visiting. But we'll just have to see what he ends up doing, Darin.
Let me just ask one follow-up question on that. And I know this is a pure guess on your part. Do you expect this to go down to the wire?
For Bowen?
Yeah.
He has told On3, it was maybe a week or two ago, that he plans on shutting things down soon.
Okay.
But I want to say when I talked to him face to face at his high school September 30th, he said the same thing. Like, I want to end this thing kind of soon. So soon's a relative term. Is that early December? Is that in a couple weeks? We'll just have to see. I mean, he's visiting. This will probably be his last visit to Notre Dame before he signs in December. I'm sure he'll also make a round to Oklahoma and Texas A&M before making that quote unquote final decision as well.
Those two teams are having a really, really tough season with a lot of drama right now. Notre Dame looks pretty settled compared to those two. All right, you had a chance to see Khalil Barnes in person this weekend. What did you take away from seeing him?
Yeah, so folks watching on YouTube, you'll get to see the clips that I took of him. I was pretty impressed. I wrote all about him in the Gold Standard, which you can find at blueandgold.com, and it's just $10 to sign up, and you get access through the start of next football season. I wrote that I kind of went into this visit not really sure what to expect in terms of him as a player. He's not ranked very highly. He's a mid 3-star. And then I wasn't really sure what to make of his recruitment in terms of where Notre Dame stands for him. He's officially visiting this weekend. He is one of those few 2023 uncommitted players that'll be on campus that are notable. So he's got his official. He's also considered a Clemson lean. So it's kind of interesting that Clemson's the team on the opposing sidelines. So Irish can have a good opportunity to impress him, but definitely left feeling pretty high on him as a player, as well as thinking that Notre Dame's got a pretty good shot. Look, Notre Dame's only been recruiting him for 2 or 3 weeks at this point. So it's not like they've been able to strongly instill all these Notre Dame values in him, right? I mean, they just started recruiting him. But when I talked to him, he was like, look, my sophomore year, I didn't tore my ACL. I know about how important life after football is. So that's something he's been thinking about since before Notre Dame offered. So I think Clemson has that close to home advantage, but Notre Dame has he's a straight A student. So Notre Dame's got the academic and kind of that life after football advantage in pitch that the staff can make. But in terms of him as a player, just an instinctive, heady cornerback. Receiver, just seemed very smart, knows how to find a hole in a defense, and very good athleticism as well. So it was pretty impressed. 6'1", 185 pounds, very bright young man. If you're talking about him being a fourth receiver in a class potentially, I mean, he's a pretty good one. So kind of how this receiver position ends is also a big storyline for the Irish to finish this cycle. And Barnes is someone who could play corner as well. I thought he looked good there. I think this would be a good get for the Irish.
I know you mentioned recently that Notre Dame is making sure they have backup plans for, like, for example, wide receiver, like we're talking about right now. But is Barnes more than a backup plan? I mean, if he commits all the versatility that he brings to the table, you think Notre Dame would take him?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think he is really establishing himself as a top target for the Irish here recently. I mean, there's just been some of these late bloomers as seniors, guys like Khalil Barnes. We'll talk next about Brandon Hillman, who have just blown up as seniors. Oklahoma, North Carolina, Notre Dame offering all three of these kids in just the past few weeks. Clemson's after Barnes. A handful of schools are after Hillman. So as Notre Dame wants to add more firepower, they've been keeping their eyes peeled, and these two young men have established themselves.
I'm Darin Pritchett. He's Mike Singer, Notre Dame football recruiting insider, Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com. You mentioned Brandon Hillman in your last statement. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, so this young man from Virginia is considered a heavy Notre Dame lean, but it's just still seems like anyone's battle at this point because he's only taken the one official visit to Notre Dame. But is he going to visit any other schools? Like, what is going to happen? More questions than answers at this point. He did announce a top 8 over the weekend: Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, Miami, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia Tech. Again, kind of goes to that point of top 8, really, at this point in your recruitment. So it's still fairly open, but still committing on his mom's birthday, December 7th. So this is a young man who could play quarterback, cornerback, running back, receiver, safety. Like, he can really be anything for this Notre Dame football team. And he's one who Notre Dame wants really badly. But I mean, he was just at North Carolina this past week, and then he puts out his commitment date. With my mantra, follow the visits. That doesn't seem great, but I still think Notre Dame has a lot of time to, if they aren't in the lead right now, I think they have a lot of time to make up ground on some of these other programs. But I would still, I give the Fighting Irish the slight edge for him right now. But just, again, with the top 8 coming off the North Carolina visit, he still can take other official visits in November. I just think that his recruitment's far from over, even though he has that commitment date in place.